It's really good to be back here. I make no apologies for starting with a poem that I've read here before because I wrote it here. And it was my first visit to the Schumacher lectures. The theme of that particular conference was less is more, and I was challenged to write a less is more poem. And what I like about it is that it's still relevant, I think, and because it came into my mind through listening to all the speakers that, of course, every time we have less of one thing, we have more of something else. Usually, in our case, of things that we value more. And so this poem celebrates the less and the more and contrasts them. And it also has an opportunity for audience participation, which I can see fills your hearts with joy and gladness. And I'm glad to see that. And so your participation bit is you get to say more participation with a lot of enthusiasm. We're going to practice that once after 3. 1, 2, 3.
It takes time.
Significantly better than I expected. Thank you, that's absolutely brilliant. If you can keep up that level of enthusiasm, I'll be both impressed and surprised. Excellent. To make it more exciting for you, I won't give you a cue as to when to say more participation because I trust you. I trust you collectively to know and to spontaneously say it. It's going to be magnificent. So, less is more. Lovely that you just think, if I pause, you're just going to say it, aren't you? It's fantastic. You were tentative, but you were beautiful. Can less be more? Can more be less? Well, yes and no. Well, no and yes. Well, more or less. More bikes, fewer cars, less haze, more stars. Less haste, more time, less reason, more rhyme. More time, less stress. Fewer miles, more fresh vegetables. Fewer car parks, more acres of available urban soil, more farmers' markets, less produce effectively marinated in crude oil. Quite a strong point there. More community, less isolation, less just sitting there. You weren't sure. Less colouring, more taste, more mashing, less waste, fewer couch potatoes, more spring greens, fewer tired tomatoes, more runner beans, more stillness, less inertia, less illness, more echinacea. Less competition, more collaboration, less passive listening. More participation! You hit that one, okay. Less attention deficit. Thank you. More concentration, less passive listening. More participation. Less repetition. Less of a warm globe, more of a chilly one, more of a wise world, fewer parts of CO2 per million. Less stress-related cardiovascular and pulmonary failure, more nurturing quality time in the company of a favourite clematis or dahlia. More craftsmanship, less built-in obsolescence, more political maturity, less apparently consequence-free extended adolescence. Strong point. More believed to be beautiful, known to be useful things, less cheap, pointless, petroleum-steeped stuff. So yes, less is more, and enough's enough. Thank you. Till there was some enthusiasm. But I've actually got 2 poems because some of you may have been privileged to see the wonderful sight of the Naked Activist coming by earlier. Did you see the Naked Activists? I hope you felt whatever they're active in favour of, that you're in favour of it too now. There's something so wonderful that they're very vulnerable, they're kind of cheeky, they're funny, and they've got no clothes on. Okay. So in their honour, I've got what I think of as a very I'm actually not ready for that. Not ready for that kind of commitment. But I just want to do a streaker poem in their honour. And I have to say that, but the streaker I was writing about wasn't actually an activist. He was more of a narcissist. But I just want to read it to you, just because it made me smile to see them. And I want to. This particular streaker had streaked over 400 times. Just so you know. So as far as I was concerned, he'd kind of transgressed the true spirit of streaking. He got a bit obsessive about it. And the poem, although it seeks to celebrate the male streaker, gets a bit judgmental towards the end. Okay, just establishing the ground rules for this poem. There's a list of places, he's streaked at all these places, not to make a point about the state of the world, but just to say, hey, look at me. Which is fair enough, up to a point. Okay, streaker. Jiggly jokery, giggly blokery. He's an artful jammy dodger with a bibbly-bobbly todger. It's a wanton bit of wobbling, spontaneous life modelling, a cheeky breach of protocol, a unilateral photo call that reminds us we are humans. It's a chance to use your zoom lens. There's a curious catharsis as he puts the arse in narcissist. But it isn't for the insecure and nor for the incontinent. You really have to be cocksure, thick-skinned and ultra-confident. So don't streak if you're angry. It's important to be dangly. Streaking through a nudist camp is technically just jogging. But if you put your togs back on, you're what's known as a streaking Tom. Never streak near welding gear. Churches, mosques or synagogues. Never do it anywhere you think there might be sniffer dogs. But once you've streaked at Aintree, the Tour de France and Barcelona, worn your birthday suit at Ascot and the Bull Run at Pamplona, done double faults at Wimbledon before Miss Kornikova, you must begin to think perhaps your hobby's taking over. And maybe you have crossed that subtle line between waving your organ of intimacy and simply being one. So it's quite a judgmental end. I think you're sure you'll agree. And let me just do something that's a bit more kind of on theme, if you like. I was recently appointed, even though there's not yet any money for the role, poet in residence for sustainable energy in the southwest with Regen Southwest. And as a goodwill gesture, I wrote a poem inspired by my first encounter with solar panels in a field. I've actually got solar panels on my home, but I'd never seen a solar field before. And I actually inadvertently contacted my own NIMBY brain, which is actually a recognised part of the human brain. It's where the sort of fight or flight or freeze reflex links up with the more cerebral neocortex, bypassing the limbic system. And you go into a very strong fight or flight response, allied to I'll start up a strongly worded petition and move on. And if I had been a dog, I would have barked. It was that kind of thing. I just didn't know what I was looking at. I was completely thrown. And it took me about 2 or 3 seconds to realise what I was looking at and to bond with it in a meaningful way. And I had a little epiphany when I realised what it was. So this poem takes you through that exploded sort of 2.5 seconds. It's called The Shock of the New. Can you picture a solar field in your minds? It would help. While still looking at me. Non-judgmentally. Okay. We turn a corner. Whoa. Slow down. Stop. Jaws drop. What is this crop? In ranks across a 5-acre field, an immaculately tidy, strangely symmetrical yield. In the first half second, the NIMBY in me stirs. The NIMBY brain whirs. It says, dark wafers. On guard. It sees Darth Vader's business card. The unprepared brain, no clues, no hints, sees an angle-poised posse of glossy, super-intelligent plank life, sees alien invasion, the first wave of frighteningly disciplined after-dinner mints. In the second half second, the NIMBY brain begins to calm. It sees they come in peace, they mean no harm. Instead, it sees a huge page of redacted Sudoku. It sees supplicant placemats, members of the most worshipful order of coasters. It sees an open-air warehouse of flat-pack goth garden furniture. In the first half of the second second, a light begins to dawn. My skin begins to tingle as I apprehend their angle is the optimum to catch the sun. And then I see synchronized sunbathers, expectant rectangles, oblongs of elegance in their very element, siphoning off the sunshine, creaming off the crop of sunbeams. In the second half of the second second, I say hooray for the array who, with silent simplicity, turn light to electricity, dismay into delight. They're kin to my panels, my own PV, that charge my handheld device and boil my cups of tea. I reach epiphany and see a choir of angles in a cathedral of stained dark windows, deep as ink, sacred insatiables whose job it is to drink in radiance, windows to a future not only doable, but so much more renewable than the namby-pamby-nimby in me or anyone cares to think. The end. There's one thing that hasn't been mentioned. We've talked about growing, and we haven't talked about one of the main enemies of growing, which is the slug. And I'm just going to, I'm not going to let the day go by without addressing the slug, because the slug's not on our side. Yeah. The slug's not going to get away with this. I've written a very strong anti-slug poem. If there are any pro-slug people here, then look away now. I'm just going to talk to the slug directly. Slug, low-born land mollusk, high-impact intruder, easy oozer, slime exuder, freeloader, sprout spoiler, meandering marauder, disrespecter of my broad beans border. You've a one-track mind in a one-track body. Diligent pillager, soft-horned in Visigoth. Nice line. Slow silver scribbler, paradoxically busy sloth. Not such a good line. Tithe taker, hole maker, indiscriminate direct debiter. Bold as brass, brassica editor. You're a squishety spoil sport, a glistening drag, the licorice all sort nobody wants to find in the bag. It's time that you were brought to book. You're not as tasty as you look. Listen, chum, you are disposable. Look at my thumb. It is opposable. Unwelcome invertebrate, this might just hurt a bit. I pluck you and I chuck you into distant dew-drenched greenery. Isn't that mean of me? Slug, when all is said and done, you can hide, but you can't run. So that's addressed to the slug. And I'm actually going to finish with just a very slightly longer piece, but it covers what I feel I want to cover. It covers love. It's a love story. It covers slowness. It covers human shyness, and it covers growing. And it's a time-lapse love story called Say It With Flowers. It's just a little story. It just goes over the page. Don't worry. I feel the need to reassure you, but I'll get over it. From his garden, he could see her garden, as she his from hers. He realised she was the woman from the garden centre. She'd smiled at him, he'd smiled back. He saw her hastily putting down Pride and Prejudice when he came to buy his things. She'd blushed. He went back 3 days running. Bought things he needed in small batches, then things he didn't need in smaller batches. Thank you. He earned 500 loyalty points. And they gave him a string bag of bulbs, which gave him an idea. I've just realised, can I put this into the mic stand? Will it fall out? Sorry, I realised I need to spell this thing out. I need to spell in the air for you, otherwise this story won't work. So how does that? That's a little clip there. So they gave him a string bag. They gave him a string bag of bulbs. Thank you. Which gave him an idea. He chose a patch and planted them. You're beautiful. No apostrophe. No E. They didn't all come up. Yo, be, if. He wondered if she got the message. Or any message. Probably not. Time passed. Come spring, after the first snowdrops, there, in neat crocuses. Pardon? Surging with adrenaline, he bought 2 bags of bulbs, all the same this time, fritillaries, tenderly reiterated, "You are beautiful." There, he'd said it. The wait was difficult. Then, they didn't really synchronise. While some were still just peeking through the soil, the keen ones spelt "oo, te, foo." The rest would catch up soon. Before they did, though, strong winds in the night flattened the U-T-I. She woke to the message F-U. He panicked. He should have just fluffed up the others and propped them with sticks if necessary. Instead, he mowed them all down and hoped she'd not seen. Puzzled, but enjoying the botanical banter, she planted blue, yellow and red primula, F-U-2. He was crestfallen, would not trust fritillaries ever again. Painstakingly, he planted penitent red lupins. Oops, sorry. Then across his former lawn with cornflowers, no offence meant. Feeling for him, she replied in January, none taken. In snowdrops, planted compassionately, but perhaps not as carefully as before. What he saw was I am taken. A bitter blow. He knew what he had to do. Bravely, he planted hardy pansies, let his house and rented a flat. She was sorry to see him go and surprised to read, "Goodbye, good luck." 2 years later, he moved back. She spotted him out tidying the garden that the tenants had let slide. Shyly, she planted grape hyacinth. Hi. He responded cautiously in delphiniums. Hi. She, in careful crocuses, "Are you okay?" He'd had enough. Speak and be damned. He blurted out in unequivocal red tulips, bought full grown, "I heart you." She replied almost immediately, a smiley face in happy marigolds. Marigolds. Yes. He began to dig, his trench so deep she could read, "Will you..." She went indoors to sow seeds in a tray. Before his bulbs came up, she was knocking on his door, tea tray in hands, her eyes inviting him to pull back the covering tea towel. Revealed in stenciled cress the word yes.
Matt Harvey. Thank you, Matt. Beautiful.
There's a land of milk and honey, and we all can have a share. But the fat cat seems to be licking off the cream, and he's leaving the barrel bare. There's a land of milk and honey, and we all can have a share. But the fat cat seems to be licking off the cream, and he's leaving the barrel bare. And he's leaving the barrel bare. We've got to share it, yeah. We've got to share it, yeah. We've got to share it before it all runs out. We all need a little, and we got such a little. Share it, yeah. We've got to share it, yeah. We've got to share it before it all runs out. We all need a little, and we got such a little time. Fat cat. taking from Peter just to give back to Paul, 'cause the fat cat's got it all. There's a land of milk and honey, but they gambled it away. Now we're taking from Peter just to give back to Paul, 'cause the fat cat's got it all. 'Cause the fat cat's got it all. We've got to share it, yeah, we've got to share it, yeah, we've got to share it. Before it all runs out, we all need a little, and we've got such a little. Share it, yeah, we've got to share it, yeah, we've got to share it. Before it all runs out, we all need a little, and we've got such a little. Time, fat cats. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cats, I know where you've been. Fat cats. Look at me, I'm fine and dandy. How my income comes in handy. Do enjoy your bitter shandy. I'll have port and carry on. Darling, what a fruitful year it's been. All your indiscretions went unseen. Let's vacation in the Caribbean. Mark it down as an expense. Boom, boom. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Fat cat, I know where you've been. Fat cat taking all of the cream. Hey, big spender, what's the bonus back? 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 Hey, big spender, what's the bonus back?
Thank you. Please come back next year.